Hey everybody, and welcome aboard. Glad you can join me to sling some paint here. Decided to put the cameras on here and paint a tutorial on a painting that I'm really not quite sure what I'm going to do here. So some rough ideas, but who knows? It could all go out the window here. So I'm going to just start by dropping in some color. I've got some crimson and some blue, and I'm going to make some different shades of this. So we're just going to go into a little bit of this crimson on our 1-inch brush. And my paint with Bram brushes here, which I like very much. So let's go into some of that. Now we're going to start our big sky maybe right around here. Sprinkle this down here too. This is going to be more at the mountain base here, not really in the sky. Okay, good. Just want to have that little bit of that reflecting where the mountain will be. Okay, and then okay, so we got our crimson in there. I just took some crimson and some phthalo blue and added some white to it. So we get a purple color. A little bit lighter, a little darker, I should say. All right, something like that. I'm going to go back into just my crimson again. I want to make this a little bit stronger. Just a little bit. Straighten that out a little bit. Okay, and then without cleaning the brush, we'll go into some of that lighter color. I'm going to come up around that. There. And then we're going to darken that a little bit by adding some more blue and crimson. Bring that down. Just more blue. I'm going to grab some more of this blue in here. Steal that. Okay, a little bit darker. That corner. And maybe a little more straight blue. Again, I'm going to go back. Another brush here. I'm going to go straight into some of this crimson again. I'm going to bring this out just a wee bit. There's going to be a brush down here. Okay, good. All right, I'm going to get a 2-inch brush. This is my Kevin Hill. I'm going to start coming in here where this pink is. Let's blend out the pink first. And these lighter sections. Do those first. so as not to drag that darker color down this way. And then work our way up. And again, I'm just winging this one. I am not sure what we're going to do. Let's blend this out. I don't like to blend it out too much. It's nice to leave some of that action in there. Okay, I like that. Okay, and then all the way across gently. Drag your color into that crimson. Okay. Now I have, before I started, I covered this canvas with a coat of liquid white, straight liquid white, but only about down to here, because I'm not sure what we're going to do down here. If we're going to put some water in, then I will add some, but if it's just land, there's no need, because we won't be blending anything down there. So we'll just leave it. Unless, okay, got a couple hairs. Let's get rid of those guys. One. Okay. Beat that out, and then again, just gently across. Okay. And then step back and look. It's always good to step back and look. So that's when you see things, and then you'll come back and fix them. Get a little color in here. All right, very good. All right, let's come back. And we're going to throw in a little more of this blue. Just a little more here. Okay, good. Wipe that brush out a little bit and then come back and just kind of blend that out again. Okay. All right, and I do want to add a little more, again, straight crimson. Just looking at this, I want to come back. I just need to darken this up a little bit. Right through here. Try some color right there. I think a lot of this will be covered down here, but just in case. Add a little more. Okay. And just a little bit right here. Okay. Then you got to get to a point where you say, okay, that's good, let's move on. I think we're at that point. Okay. Excellent. And again, I think I'm going to do a little more crimson down here. Oops. of that pink down here. Okay, so next, I think what I'm going to do is put start with some mountains around here, but very far off into the distance. I think we're going to make them real light, and then have a couple of them build and get closer on this side. So for that, I'm going to take a filbert brush. I might use this flat brush. This little angled shader. So we're going to make a couple different colors here. Let me get my knife. Wipe my knife off. Okay, so we're going to take some of this mountain mix and just a little bit, maybe that much. Okay. Then we're going to put a good chunk of white in there to make it a very light color. Stir that up. It always appears a little darker, I believe, once you hit the canvas with it. So we'll have one like that, and then we'll take another chunk of this mountain mix down here with a little less, maybe just some residual white. Let's get a little darker. A little lighter than that. Let me steal a little bit of this. Dig up more of this white. Okay, maybe like that. Alright, so we have a couple different shades. And then for the last one, we'll probably go straight mountain mix. And we can wipe with a paper towel if we need to lighten it as well. Okay. Wipe my knife, set my knife down. All right, so yeah, you could use a filbert brush for this. I'm just going to use this little angled shader. First color is this lighter color that we had. So just get a little bit and then wipe it off, actually. Just almost a stain on your brush. Let's see. Maybe this first little set will be about right here. We'll just kind of comes up like that. Okay, and then just blend it down. We don't want any detail here. Just a distant mountain. We'll just go off here to nothing. Bring a little color down. Now let's make some of these brush strokes head down the mountain here. See what that looks like. Again, we're not going to have any detail here. We'll take our little blender brush. Again, my paint with Bram. Cool little brush. So we're just going to kind of blend this. Knock it down. Blend out the base. Good. Okay. And we'll move forward a little bit. So we'll go into this next color. And again, knock some of it off. Always go on with a little. We can always make it more if necessary. Maybe this guy's a little closer. He cuts down in front of him. Just making a shape. Okay. And we'll blend that out and bring him down too. This way. A little more color. All right, just work that color in. And bring that color down. We'll use that blender brush and come back here and kind of pull it. This one we can pull. Hairs and blend out that base. Okay. I'm actually going to come back here with a little bit of this light color. Make an even lighter one, way off over here. You're just peeking out. Back there. And blender brush. And let's just soften him down. Barely can see him. He's way off. Bring this down a little bit. All right. Now I will come with my knife as we get closer And we're going to darken this shade a little bit. So we'll take a little bit of this mountain mix, a little mountain into this color that we had, just darkening it a little bit. Let's pull that out. Okay. Cut off a little roll of paint. And let's see now. Where do we want to put this next one? So he's going to probably be, I want to say maybe here. I want to cut off all that pink. So maybe something like that. More of that. And pull that paint. Maybe we'll come back with an even stronger one. Before I do that, let me pull this out. Okay, let's come in here and grab this paint and pull. Bring him down in front of that one. Wipe off the brush. Pull this paint out. Good. Get some of this paint here. Maybe this goes off. Edge there. Okay. And again, take a bigger brush. Let's pull this and bring it down. And the reason why we're pulling this down is for two reasons: to blend it out, obviously, but it also removes a lot of extra paint. getting rid of that paint is crucial for the next step when we highlight the mountain. Okay. I'm going to add just a little bit of color on this back side, darken it up a little bit. Blend that out. I want to make this front mountain a little darker. So we're going to go into some of this straight mountain mix. And I just want to darken this up a little bit. Add a little more color. Come back. We want this one a little darker than this one, as we're obviously in the foreground here of the mountain range. Just pull it out. Doesn't matter. We're going to highlight over top of it, so don't sweat where it goes. Maybe it's going to come down. Maybe this mountain will split a little bit here. Maybe part will come this way and then come down. We shall see. Blend it out at the base. Good. Okay. Okay, now I got a smaller filbert brush here, and we're going to steal some of this white that we have. I added some titanium white, and we're going to put it over here with this crimson. And I'm thinking probably not going to touch these two, but we'll add a little bit of highlight here. Let's see what happens. Maybe we'll come in here and just touch and dry. Oops, maybe not enough paint. There we are. Like that. Get a little more paint. And just very subtle. Okay. And over here, just kind of moving our way down. And again, just dragging this filbert brush. Just trace this down there. Let this pull down a little further. Kiss that a little bit there. I like that better. Okay, now let's wipe our brush. And just looking at this, I think maybe a little bit of this, get this purplish, just a little on your brush. So we'll go to the shadow side. Let's see what this looks like. Not too much. Just maybe a few touches. Bring the mountain this way. Get very light, not much back here. Okay. All right, so I had a change of plans here. I was going to do the two separate mountains, but I think it'll be best here if we connect these two. So I scraped off what I had, and now I'm going to add a little more dark here over top of what I scraped. So we'll just push this dark color in. And I think this will look much better this way. So we'll just pull this dark color out. I think we'll have this mountain extend all the way to this side here. That will also help push those other mountains back further. Just clean this edge. And again, just adding this dark base. So we'll get this into place. Just trying to cover my old top edge. We want to round this off a little bit. Maybe we'll have those two mountains kind of blend together there. Step back and take a look. Yeah, I think I'll make this a little higher, a little bump here. Just to change it up a little bit. Mountains are so much fun to create. I've said it before, it's like putting together a puzzle, and you get to decide where all the pieces go, how big, how small. So let's just scrape this paint off. And again, just getting this excess paint off. Which will make our next step of highlighting a lot easier. So now I'm going to take my 2-inch brush here and pull this paint out. Again, because we have the clear gel on there, it makes the paint movable. So we're going to pull this paint down. And again, it does a couple things. It removes excess paint, and we also get to move this mountain downward. just working this color in. Just grab the paint and pull it. I definitely like this mountain better like this. I'm glad I made the change. Sometimes when we're painting, you have to make adjustments, or you don't like what you did, and you have to scrape it off and start again. It happens to us all. If you don't like it, change it. It's a great thing about this technique is we can easily change things on the fly. All right, so let's again, this paint blended down. And take your time when you're doing these things. There's no need to rush. There's no time deadline. Good paintings take time and thought. All right, so we'll blend out the bottom there. You can also, at this point, roughly put in your highlight and shadow sides with brush strokes if you'd like. You can kind of see the general angle I'm heading at here, where I want my mountain to go. But you can change it at any time as well. You don't have to go by what you put on there. You can put your highlights somewhere else. So we're getting this paint off here, and again, part of the reason we do this is when we go to highlight, your highlight's going to really break nicely if you can remove as much of the excess paint as possible. Another reason to pull the paint out here is we can naturally get a misty effect as the color gradually gets lighter as we get to the base. And as you can see, just what I've done here, it appears as if there is mist at the base of the mountain. So a lot of times you don't have to add white to the bottom and tap it. It's a lot of times just not necessary if you gradually have that color get lighter and really blend out the base as I'm doing here. Your mist is in place automatically. All right, time to highlight this bad boy. So we got some titanium white mixed with a little bit of the crimson. So we have a little bit of a pink glow on it from the sky. And we're just going to gently touch and get this top outline here. When you're highlighting your mountain, just skim the paint. Try not to let the knife touch the canvas until you start to run out of paint. And I like to use a small roll of paint when I'm doing these. Kind of helps to avoid gobbing the paint on and smearing it. And I like to use short strokes at times to create the lay of the mountain. I find it's much easier to do. Everybody's different, and you got to find what works for you. But through my teaching, I found this a very successful way for students to learn how to paint mountains. It's important that you take your time. As you can see, go slowly and think about what you're doing. And build your mountain piece by piece. I like to always do my highlights first, all the way across, and then come back and put my shadows in. All right, so we've got 2 peaks done here. I'm going to mix a little more crimson in with my white. And we're going to come on the right side here. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of the mountain mix mixed in with this white here to give it a little bit of a, or I should say the mountain mix and a little bit of the purplish color. Just to vary it up. I guess you could call it a shadow color. Touch this top up a little bit. There. Reload the knife. And we'll come to this side. And again, very, very light touch. Just skim the paint. And take your time and be accurate. All right. I'm going to bring this down a little bit, kind of in front of that. We could have connected those, but you get a little more depth if you leave that dark section and bring the next peak in front of it. Jump up to this one. Remember, cover that dark top edge. A little more paint. Trying to cover that top there. We really don't want to have dark sticking out at the top of your mountain. Okay. Notice I left that little dark area right there. Those dark areas are your crevices. Sometimes the best choice to paint is to not put any paint at all. Your darks are so important on your mountain, or just in general in painting. But leaving those areas gives the craggly effect of the rocks. So again, as you can tell, I like to take my time and be accurate. And again, I like these shorter strokes because it's easier to build your mountain. Piece by piece. Come back up here. And hold that knife lightly. So little pressure that you could actually drop it, and I have very often. See, this is when there's no paint on my knife. You can hear the scraping, and that gives you that effect at the bottom where the snow just kind of dissipates into the mist. And again, you're really not doing much at all, just taking the remainder of the paint on your knife and getting it off. Okay, let's head to this peak here and bend this slowly. There we go. And then come above that a little bit. Bring this one into this one. And then as we get lower on the mountain, your strokes will become a little more horizontal as opposed to vertical. And not always, but just in general. I mean, if you have a cliff, obviously you're going straight down. And again, as you can see, when my knife empties, I get those very subtle effects. I'm just touching the tip of this mountain here with a little more snow. And again, leaving a lot of dark in there. And sometimes you don't even need a shadow side, as the base provides a nice shadow. But we will put some shadow in here. And just playing with this edge here. It's always difficult when you get to the edge of your canvas with a mountain or anything, because the wood, the frame underneath, especially at the very edge, gathers paint. And you get this line of paint down the side. So you have to be careful. Just want to touch up this top here a little bit. Pull a little paint out. Kind of rounds that corner. Now I'm going to mix a little bit of a shadow color here with just white and a touch of blue, just a little bit. And we just gently touch and follow that top outline. And we'll bring this one into the highlight on the other side. And by cutting off that back line, makes it look like that peak sits back a little bit. So again, just pulling in the opposite direction and bringing these two sides together. like to just use a little bit of paint at a time so as not to overdo it. I think we'll bring this line down like this and just kind of bring these two sides together. Good. That. And let's see where this mountain goes. A little more color. Use the small edge of the knife here. And jump up to this peak on this side. This is where that paint gathers on the edge, as I was telling you about, so we'll have to clean that off. But it's very hard to use the knife over the edge there without getting a line of paint. But we'll wipe it off. And just bring this shadow. The rest of this mountain sits off the canvas. All right, let's wipe away this little line. Ah. Like I said, generally this only happens when you're using the knife on the edge. The brushes are fine. The knife catches that wooden edge and it's a paint gatherer. All right. I think we're good. All right, I can never leave well enough alone, and I did want to add a few more highlight spots and bring my mountain down a little bit at the bottom, and then add a few more shadows in here. Touch this top with a little bit of shadow. Bring it down. And you can literally drop a shadow in anywhere you want. It's a great way of adding depth to your mountain. Just pull this out. And I don't want to cover up all those darker areas with shadow because, again, those are your deeper crevices and they're super important. And add a third dimension of depth to your mountain. Just pulling a little more color in here. This is why it's nice to take your time. When you take your time, you're going to see more things. And of course you have to be careful and not overdo. Sometimes we paint over some of our best work. I've certainly been guilty of that many times, where I say I should have left it like it was. So again, that's the importance of stepping back and walking away, coming back and reevaluating. All right, just working some spots here. And again, you don't have to do this. You can just kind of roughly follow what I'm doing. I'm just showing you what I do when I'm painting these. I'm going to add a little bit of shadow color right here. Just a touch. Let's see. Maybe here. Okay. I think I'm digging this mountain. Bring this down a little bit. Extend this down a wee bit. Got no paint on my knife here. Just remnants. Now let's go over here and put a little shadow on this side of this little peak. All right, let's see here. Maybe this spot's catching a little light. We'll bring him down. Let's bring him in front a little bit, like that. Extend that down. We get very little to no paint on my knife there. Had I gone on to the next step of the painting already, and then I saw that, hey, I can bring this mountain down a little bit, it'll look a little better, I would not have been able to do it. So, again, that's, take your time when you paint. Yes, I like that little bit right there. Bring this down a little bit too. Some of this might get covered, I'm not sure. We will see. emptying the knife. And if you notice the bottom of my mountain, it appears as if it is in mist, and I have not added anything to the bottom. So if you can naturally get that misty effect, it I think is very effective. And these are just some barely visible pieces here at the bottom here, with a knife that has hardly any paint on it. Touch here. And I know when you watch Bob Ross paint a mountain, he does it so quickly, but he had so many time restraints on him. I know when he sat at his home and painted, he wasn't trying to do it in 27 minutes. Another touch up here. Bring this in a little bit more. Again, these are things you see. And if you want to fix it or make it a little better, this is the time. And again, if you're painting along with me, you don't have to paint exactly what I paint. I'm just trying to give you an idea and show you how I do it. And you can use the composition, but do it in your style and your way. Again, I'm just showing you how I do it and the time that I take. Now, we have I've just used a Bob Ross Mountain Mix. And we are going to tap in some land. I'm using this is my Kevin Hill 2-inch brush. And again, we're just tapping in dark color. This is the Bob Ross Mountain Mix. It's a very easy base color for your underpainting. Mountains, bushes, foliage. I think I'm going to have some water to the left here. And this will be land. As Bob says, you can put this on with a paint roller if you'd like. As long as you get the color down. Make this a little darker. And again, I think I'm going to put some water to the left. And this will be maybe the valley underneath the mountain. Just tap, 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 tap. Spread some of that color out. All right. All right, so I think I'm going to, let me find a brush here. I'm going going to put some crimson at this point in the water before I get too far along. I want to get my watercolor in there and bring it up to the land. So just going to grab a 1-inch brush here and load it with some crimson. And I think I'm just going to put it on the water's edge by the land. So maybe here. And we'll blend it all in. Just want to get the color in. Just to catch a little bit of that pink from the sky on the edge here. I don't want it to overwhelm the water. Just be kind of on the edge. And we'll probably extend that land on the right here, down the bottom. So here is some phthalo blue. I'll just bring that blue from the left in to the crimson. Like this. Make it a little darker. Just blend it right into that crimson. No worries. All right, I'm liking this. And again, the land is going to come down a little further over there. There we go. Just blend that right in. A little more blending. A little more of that crimson and bring it into the blue. Little hair. Get off of there. And you can blend it as you see fit, to any degree that you like. Less, more. A little more dark here. There we go. A little more color. You can fast forward through all this. All right, now let me meet my land. I want it to go all the way across here. So that's kind of off into the distance there. Good. And bring this down. Little hair. And bring this down like a bank here. Remember, your water has to sit down. Otherwise, it'll spill out into your painting. All right, more color. Just want to darken this up a little bit and continue down here. And bring it right up to the water. I think on this bottom end we'll have maybe a little peninsula comes out. So that bank line is not straight. You'll see when I get there. And here, just filling in the color. More paint. And we'll have reflections and stuff pulled down here. So we'll just start with some light reflections, and then we can go back and add more if necessary. I'm not sure what I'm going to have on this bank, so I'm not sure how far I'm going to pull things down. May have some trees, some bushes. So for now, we'll just give ourselves a little guide. Drop some color in. And again, that's one of the things that's so cool about this style, is I can put in some reflections very lightly here, and then in 20 minutes I can add to them, and it stays wet. We can make them bigger. A little more difficult to make them smaller, but we can definitely make them bigger. And again, I'm going to have, I think, this land will come out a little bit at the bottom of the painting. Right here. So we'll close that in. Make it darker. Okay. Pull this down a little more. And go across. And again, we're going to add some foliage, I think, on the bank. So we'll add more reflections as we go. Just smooth that out. Okay. Touch up this mountain a little bit. I'm always going back to the mountains. Just saw a few spots. Because I can never leave well enough alone. I will say I like this mountain quite a bit. It's one of my favorites. And I usually don't like my paintings or get overly excited about them. All right. think I want to hit another spot here. I want to define this edge a little more. Bring it down a little bit. Yes, I like that. Much better. Don't want to get too close to my land paint. And then bring this shadow a little bit. Smooth it out. Because the mountains are never finished. But adding that little bit at the bottom there, as you can see, brings that peak in front a little bit. Or the bottom of it, I should say, not the peak. If you're happy with your mountain at this point, you fast forward right along. Again, you can change or fix or add to anything you want. A little dark. Put a little dark in there. There we go. It's a little too blue. And bring this shadow down a little bit. And bringing those two sides together. Am I done? That is the question. Almost. Tame that down a little bit. But it's these little details sometimes that really can set your painting apart. And sometimes if I look at my painting, little things will bug me. But again, there's a point where you got to know when to stop and when to move on. Or when to correct. And in this case, just adding two. Use my filbert a little bit. Just blending out a couple of these little areas with the dark into the blue. Little touch up. Same thing here. Just some little detail work. Extend that shadow down. I normally do not use my filbert for this. But it is nice to get into some of these tight spots. Don't worry, we'll get to the rest of the painting in a minute. Just dragging out a little bit of that shadow. And again, you do not have to do this, so you could do it with a knife or pretty much any brush. Any brush works. As long as you can fit it in there. But I like that. That added a lot more depth to that chunk of mountain right there. Kind of defining some of these a little better. And who knows, this could all be covered up. Now let's come back with my little paint with Bram blender. This is a great little blender brush. And just kind of blend out a little bit of those marks. Notice I'm coming back into the angle that I came down on. Clean off the side here. And again, my mist is in place, so I don't have to add anything. Now to the rest of the painting. I'm going to grab a little flat brush here and some of the mountain mix. And this is a Kevin Hill flat brush, and I'm going to start with some little background trees way off in the distance here. And we're doing this just like Bob does with his fan brush. Just touching and pulling down. Actually, I'm going to switch to a fan brush here. I don't know if I like this. But these are way off in the distance. Getting closer right there. A little higher. So this line of trees is coming from the base of the mountain to a high point, and then back again. Yeah, let me get my fan brush. My fan brush will be a little more effective for this. Let's do this again with a smaller fan brush. Probably about a 3, I do believe. It's one of my off-market brands. And we're just going to bring these out a little more. But again, they're far off in the distance. And just filling in here. Working my way back. It's nice when you do your, if you ever do background evergreen trees, try to have them coming towards you instead of just side to side. I often see them going straight across, which is fine. But if you go straight across and just simply make some much taller, it will appear as if they're closer. I like to really get a chiseled edge on my fan brush when I do these. And again, vary the heights. So we have a row in the very back that's kind of coming towards us and then fades off. Then I have this row that's going to come towards us and also fade off. Here I'm filling in the bottom, so you don't want any gaps in these background tree lines. If it's a forest, it's going to be very dense, especially at the base of the trees. So you need to go back and fill those in. I often see where there's big gaps in people's tree lines. Kind of looks like the forest may be burnt out a little bit. And if you had a forest fire, well, that's okay too. But they'll look more effective if they're darkened at the bottom. Okie doke. I'm going to reload my brush and come back up here. And again, redefine maybe this. Let me see here. I'll start another row. And working our way forward here. There we go. Reload your brush off, and that gives you that clean top edge. You do not want to blend these upwards past the tips. It just smears your paint. I've seen many people do that. They put these trees in and then they blend upwards and pull out the tips, and it just smears dark paint. And there's no need to it. If you chisel your edge and come back and put some really clean tops in. The bottom of these can be mushed and sloppy because we can't really see that. It's just dark. But the tops you want crisp and clean. And you can come back and add the tops in with a nice chiseled edge. So we're going to work this line back again. So now we have 3 groupings of trees. Each one gets a little bigger, and that gives us that depth that we're looking for. From far off to near. All right, let's come with another row here. And sometimes it's good as a guide, just put a small tree at the back and then the bigger one towards the front, and then fill in between. And just keep filling in until the bottoms are dark. And again, just with that little row of tall to short, it appears as if the trees are headed off into the distance. And it's very easy to do. There's no magic to it. It's just tall trees in front of short trees, and it'll give you the illusion of depth. And as you can see, the tips are pretty distinct. So we'll keep moving forward. So we'll bring that line down off into the distance on the right here, and then I'm just filling in the color. on the bottom. Remember, distinct tops. And then inside that, it doesn't matter. Just so the color's full and we can't peer through. Okay. All right, and then we'll have another line of trees coming towards us. Again, from back to front or front to back. Some taller ones at the front. And we want, again, this line, we want to even be taller in the front than the previous line. Now, if you wanted that line further away, you could, of course, have it smaller. But I want each row to get a little bit closer. So we'll go a little taller here. And go ahead and flip your brush. Use both sides. And these closer rows, when we highlight, we will bring out that front tree a little bit. The further back we go, we will not highlight at all. I'm just going back and filling in a few areas. I want to make sure we're all dark underneath, or at the base, I should say. Just filling in the spaces back here. Okay, now to highlight some of the grass going back on the back left here. So I've got some, a little of the mountain mix in yellow with a touch of green on my fan brush. And I'm just gently touching back here. This is going to be far off, so it doesn't have to be perfect or exact. Just putting a little bit of that mixture over the dark color. So again, just some yellow, a little bit of the mountain mix, and a little sap green. You could even, sometimes with my grass, I like to add just a touch of phthalo green too. Just bringing this land up between these trees. And again, you don't have to be too particular back here. It's pretty far off in the painting. Make sure you follow the lay of the land. As you come closer to that bank, you need to bring the grass down towards the water. All right, now we're going to all the way back here and just start tapping back and forth, bringing that grass forward. And around the edges here of these tree lines. Very simple. Literally just tapping. I should also add that I added a touch of liquid white to this paint to thin it a little bit, of course, so it sticks. And bringing that grass close to the water. You also want to start to think about where the light might be hitting, where the grass might be a little bit brighter. Let's start this one way off in the distance. Just using the corner, really. And then as we move forward, just tapping in between these rows of trees. But as I was saying, where you think the light's going to be hitting, you could come with a little more brighter color And where you think it might be a little more shadowy, just a little bit darker. And we never know where the shadows will be. There could be a big cloud in the sky to my right that's blocking the sun out in certain spots. Maybe there's not a tree or anything in the painting that would be creating a shadow, but clouds create shadows all the time. So if it's a little dark in one spot, just say you got a big cloud over top. All right, let's touch up a little bit of this. I'm going to define this line a little bit because this will cut in front. See right there? We've now brought this little chunk of land in front of that back row of trees. And again, come down the bank. Angle your brush as you get to the bank. And I normally would not use a fan brush for this, but some of these spots are a little small, so it fits in nicely as opposed to a 1-inch brush. And it seems to be working nice here. It's getting a nice effect when I tap. So I'm going to keep moving forward with this little fan brush. Experiment, use different brushes for different things. And you'll be like, oh, this looks pretty cool. So again, turning down the bank and just tapping, coming forward. And again, if you want a new plane, simply make your color a little brighter, get a little more liquid white maybe on the tips, and start a new row. And that will define that plane. Like right here. And of course, key also is leaving that little bit of dark before you do your new plane. And that by itself will make the new plane appear. Add a little more highlight on the top of it and it'll bring it out even more. Just tapping and coming forward in the painting. Coming down this bank. I know I'm going to have some foliage, some bushes and stuff, and maybe a couple bigger trees here. I'm not sure where, so I'm just going to continue with the grass. Then I can block in my other things over top if needed. But I like this fan brush is giving a nice fluffy effect to the grass. I often use my 1 or 2 inch, but I'm digging this. So we'll just keep going. More color. Again, note how I angle my brush as I come over the bank. Go with it. And as I get closer to the water, I kind of just use the corner. And we're just going to fill this in. There we go. We'll have some big trees here, I do believe so, on the right, so I'm not worried about the grass there too much. I'm going to touch a little bit of grass back here. There we go. Just a little bit of land. Very good. Touch touch this up a little bit. And I'm going to pull a little bit of that green down into the reflection. Just so we have a little bit of that color. Okay. Take my little blender, go across. And soften that up. I'm just putting a little dark line here where the grass and the water meet, just to define that edge. All right. And just using a flat brush. And down there will be covered up, I do believe. All right. Define some of these tops over here a little more. Okay. All right. Now we will continue with the tree line. And we'll come forward. All right, so we'll put a big tree here. I like to use a guideline. You don't have to. Put his friend right there. Let's see. All right. Starting at the top, we're just going to touch and work our way down the tree, going side to side. Just tapping, reloading. Flip the brush. And again, and just working our way down. A little more paint. This filbert is really nice for making these evergreens. You can push it a little bit harder to get more hangy downs, or not use quite as much pressure, and the limbs stand up a little bit. Fill that in. It's probably my favorite brush for doing evergreens. It has a nice effect. And we'll bring her down. Maybe about there. Touch a few spots. Extend this out a little bit. Okay. That's better. All right, let's get some more paint. Come to tree number 2. Again, just tapping very lightly. Start at the center, work left, center, work right, back and forth. Coming out a bit as you go down. My studio is in my basement. That's why my hat's on. It's cold down here in the wintertime. All right. Now this lead tree in the back of this line, we will put some shapes on top just to define it. Maybe make the top a little longer. There we go. Widen this guy out a little bit down here. And we'll decide how far down we want to bring them when we highlight. Making sure we're nice and dark in the middle there. Evergreens are pretty dense, and you really can't see through them. Okay, let's see. I'm going to bring out this front tree as well. So we'll just put some limbs on him as well. And we'll also drop some highlights on him. And he'll stand out a little more. Just these front trees and the groups. Okay. And we'll do this one too. A little more paint. And again, just defining these trees up front. Won't do anything to the trees behind it. Very good. And I don't think we'll do the trees to the left because they're too far off. Now I'm just going to add a little dark on the left side here, as some of this will be in shadow as the light's coming from the right. We'll just bring in some of that dark color down a little bit. Very good. Little shadow from that front tree. And a little bit on this side too. All right. Now, hold down. I want to pull down a little bit of this color under this tree. Make it a little further down. The reflection is a little short. Your reflection should come down as far as the tree goes up. And that's pretty far off, but just wanted to touch that up a little bit. A little more color. So I'm trying not to hit the grass that I already put in. Pull that down and gently across. All right. Let me get a little more dark paint on my filbert and go back to this tree on the right. Just touch a couple spots. And then we'll highlight. But first let's drop another tree right here. Maybe he sits behind him a little bit. Touch. Side to side and work your way down. Yeah, it's much better. Fills that empty space. And we'll separate this bottom with highlights. Very good. Okie doke. Let's see here. Before I highlight, I just want to touch this up a little bit here. That's better. Make sure it's good and dark. And add a little more of a top to this guy. There we are. Double check. Just filling in a couple spots. Now we'll highlight these evergreens with pretty much the same color we used for the grass. Added a little bit of liquid white to my green and yellow with a little bit of mountain mix. Touch of phthalo green too, if you'd like. Just a little bit. And we'll work our way down the tree. Our light is coming from the right, so we'll keep the highlights on the right side. Get some more color. this guy. It's a little harder at the top because this brush is wide. It's hard to get a small highlight on there. And just a couple. Lighter at the base. Always lighter at the base of your evergreens. Let's go up to this one. Just touch. Reload. It's good to wipe your brush every now and then as you pick up that dark tree color. If your paint is thin properly, just a light touch and your highlight color will come right off. If you have to push, it's not thin enough and you're going to mud it up. And we'll touch this one at the front of this tree line. A little more subtle back here. There we go. Little on this one. More color. Just the front couple trees. Come over here, and again, the same thing. Just come down the front tree. And then you can add a few highlights to the left or right of that, just a little bit. Couple here and there. Okay. Think we're good? Let's take a look. Just a spot or two. And if you highlight them correctly, you'll have a lot of volume in your tree. It won't look flat. A few spots. Punch in some dark here. If ever your highlights are a little bright, just come back with I like to use a little filbert. Put a little mountain mix on there, a little dark color. And you can just kind of punch in where maybe you felt it was a little too bright. Just toning down the edges here and there. It's an easy way to fix an over-highlighted tree. or just balance it out. Just come back and punch in a little dark. Now to some bushes. All right. I apologize here. I forgot to turn my camera back on, but as you can see, I've added these darker areas. Just a few spots here. I just used my oval brush to put in the dark. And now I'm going to pull a little bit of that dark down as a reflection. Here and here. A little bit up here. And as you can see in the bottom right, I darkened in that whole section for some bushes. So just adding some dark. And this is just mountain mix. Bring some of that down into the water. Maybe we'll put one right here. And I just put this dark right over the grass. And reflection. Just putting some of that into the water. And we'll pull down. And gently across. Bring these down a little further. And across. Okie doke. Now we'll highlight. So we're going to go into some yellow, some green. I think here I got yellow. And a little phthalo green. I'm going to tap that brush into the paint. Good amount of paint. Make sure your bristles are full. Then a light touch and it comes right off. Again, our light is coming from the right, so we want the right side to be a little brighter. Changing the color up a little bit. So that right side will be bright. And a little less color on the left. And you can make your bushes whatever color you want. I'm basically using a green with yellow, sap green, and phthalo green. And then we'll put some other colors in. But you can make your bushes any color you want. Might steal a little yellow ochre, a little Indian yellow here and there, some red as well. go over here. No. Let's go here. Just a light touch. Again, these bushes here, yellow, little sap green, little mountain mix, and a touch of phthalo green. Again, we're highlighting the right side. And then as our paint gets less, and with less pressure, do the back side of the bush. We'll add another layer right there. Now that bush is in front of that one. This is a little peninsula we kind of put in there. Okie doke. Let's continue with our green theme. I'm going to make a couple of these bushes red, as long as we got this green brush going. Let's plop some more green bushes in. Again, highlighting the right side. And we'll put another bush right in front of him. You'll notice the dark area in between that really separates them. We'll reflect this into the water. Just gently touching. And I'll put another green one over here. And again, if your paint is thin properly with a little liquid white, and you have enough paint in your bristles, just the lightest touch will bring that highlight right off. No smears, no mud. All right, let's come over here. Still going with our green variations of green. Sure we got enough paint. Very important. That's why you see me going back to the palette to make sure I got enough in the bristles. And then lighter to the left. I'm digging it. Now I'm going to grab another 1 inch for my red. I think we're going to put some red bushes in here too. When you're doing red bushes, I do not recommend liquid white because then you'll have pink bushes. So if you want a red bush, you got to dip into some thinner, just a touch, literally 2 bristles. Shake it off, even tap it on a paper towel, then go into your color. If you don't, the thinner will make your paint into mud, and that's definitely not what you want. So here's our red bush. Oh yeah. Just straight red. This is the Bob Ross red. Reload. Tap, 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 tap those bristles. Again, it's imperative that you have a good amount of paint in your bristles. Highlighting the right and then gently on to the left side. Let's squeeze a red one in right here. Very nice. And this one. Touch. Heavier paint on the right. Then the paint that's left, work your way back to the left side. And we'll reflect this into the water. And move on. To this. And when you're highlighting, remember, come above the dark, just a little bit. Slightly above the dark. All right, and reflect him into the water as well. All right. Those are some good looking bushes. Let's add another little bit right here. This is further off, so just a little bit. Maybe a touch right here. I think that's good. Now, with the blender brush, we'll take these reflections gently. 2 hairs and some air. Pull down gently. This brand blender brush is great for this. Okay, and then gently across. Doesn't matter which way you go, right to left, left to right. Once again, I walked away from my easel, came back and forgot to turn my camera on. But I was in the process of putting these water lines in. When you're putting these water lines in, make sure your strokes are horizontal. They have to be flat, even as you're coming forward. Also added some ripples, as you can see, in the lake. Just a few. And I think that will do it. I thank you so much for painting along with me, my friends. It's greatly appreciated. It was a blast. I hope you give this one a try. Please let me know how it works out for you. Send me a pic, and have a lot of fun with it. It's been my pleasure. All the best.